Space was silent, but on the edge of the Zelari galaxy, silence suddenly changed into fear. Commander Thalen of the Zelari Border Patrol stood inside the command deck of Outpost Varen 3, a giant metallic station floating in the dark. His long silver fingers moved across glowing screens as he watched the galaxy's sensors scan the empty void outside. For thousands of years, nothing ever came from the space beyond their galaxy. Nothing lived there, nothing traveled there. Nothing survived the dark, but today something was coming. A red alarm flashed across the monitors. Unidentified object detected, the station's AI warned. Thalen leaned forward. The reading was strange, almost impossible. The object was coming from the direction of the void between galaxies, a place even the bravest explorers feared. He whispered, "What kind of ship travels through empty space like that?" His officers gathered around, their dark eyes wide with worry. Their galaxy was peaceful, united, and calm, but everyone knew that the unknown was dangerous, and this object was very unknown. A mystery in the void. At first, they thought the sensor was broken. The object was moving too fast, yet not like a missile, not like a ship they recognized. It left behind no radiation trail, no warp distortion, no typical engine signature. It was almost quiet, too quiet. Officer Ramaz zoomed in the long-range cameras. The image was blurry, but it was enough to send a chill through the room. A dark vessel floated slowly toward them, long, sharp, metallic, very different from any ship in their records. "It's slowing down," Ramaz said. "Then it knows we are here," Thalen replied. His voice was calm, but inside fear was building. Ships from other galaxies did not come here. Ships from other galaxies did not exist at all. Until today. Panic across the outpost within minutes. The entire outpost went into high alert. Hundreds of Zelari soldiers ran through hallways. Defense drones powered up, shield arrays activated. Every screen in the station displayed the same message: unknown vessel approaching, be prepared for contact in the war room. Dozens of holograms hovered above a round table, maps, energy readings, possible threat levels, emergency escape routes. General Korsh appeared on the hologram link from the capital. "Commander Thalen," he said sternly, "keep your distance. Do not provoke the craft. We don't know what it is capable of." Thalen nodded. "We are observing quietly, General. No weapons locked." But that wasn't fully true. The outpost had quietly rotated its turrets toward the unidentified vessel. They were not aiming directly, but they were ready, just in case. The vessel that broke every rule, the alien vessel, drifted closer, passing a bright nebula behind it. Its hull reflected starlight like cold steel. It didn't match any known species design, no organic shape, no glowing plasma engines, no curved hulls. It looked simple, but simple in a way that felt dangerous, as if the builders cared only for survival and power, not beauty. "Scan it again," Thalen ordered. Ramaz shook her head. "Sir, this technology is strange. It looks old, but it is extremely strong." "Old and strong," Thalen repeated. "That combination didn't exist in their galaxy." "Yes, and it has no weapons." The room became silent. No weapons? That made no sense. A ship traveling across galaxies should be heavily armed, unless it was confident enough not to need them. The first shockwave. Suddenly, the vessel emitted a pulse. A blue wave burst outward, gentle but powerful enough to disrupt every sensor for a moment. Screens flickered, lights dimmed, the officers gasped. "Was that an attack?" "No damage," Ramaz replied, checking the readings. "It was a scan." The unknown ship had scanned the entire outpost in one breath. "They know everything about us now," Thalen said quietly. His officers exchanged nervous glances. If the ship wanted to attack, it could do so now, knowing exactly where their weaknesses were. But it did nothing. It simply waited. The desperate broadcast. General Korsh's hologram flickered again. "Thalen, send a peaceful message. If this is a new species, we need diplomacy." Thalen nodded and signaled the communication officer. A soft, melodic tone played as the broadcast began. "Unknown vessel, this is Zelari Outpost Varen 3. You are entering our territory. State your identity and purpose. We welcome peaceful contact." They waited 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, no reply. "Try again," Thalen said. The officer repeated the message in several universal languages. "Still nothing, sir." Ramaz whispered, "What if they cannot understand us? Or what if they are choosing not to answer?" Officer Darren added. Both possibilities were terrifying. A broken voice. Just as they were about to try one more time, something unexpected happened. A faint voice crackled through the speakers. Static, noise, silence, then, "Hello, is anyone receiving?" Everyone froze. The voice was soft, young, not robotic, not alien. It sounded like a person, a biological being. Thalen stepped closer to the console. "This is Commander Thalen of the Zelari Patrol. We hear you. Identify yourself." Silence. Then the voice returned, clearer this time. "I am Commander Riley, human vessel Aurora's Wake. I need help. Please, anyone." The officers looked at each other, confused. "Human," Darren repeated. "What species is that? We have no record." Ramaz searched their database. Nothing, not one mention of humans. "The galaxy learns a new word." Thalen spoke carefully, his voice steady. "Commander Riley, from which star system do you come?" The answer shocked the entire room. From the Milky Way galaxy, gasps filled the deck. The Milky Way, that distant galaxy, the one scientists believed was empty. Thalen felt his heartbeat slow. A ship from another galaxy, a ship that crossed impossible distances, a ship piloted by a person they had never encountered. This was history. But Riley's voice was weak, trembling. My ship is damaged. I lost control of the main systems. I think I'm drifting. Thalen's fear changed instantly into urgency. This wasn't a threat. This was a desperate cry for help. The ship in trouble. Ramat checked the scans again. Sir, she is right. The vessel is losing power. The engines are unstable. If the engines collapse, the ship might explode, or worse, it might fall into the gravity well of a nearby dead star. Thalen clenched his jaw. Prepare rescue drones. Move the outpost between the ship and the star's pull. Darren hesitated. Sir, what if this is a trap? Thalen shook his head. A dying captain does not fake fear. We help. The officers obeyed. The rescue begins. 4 large rescue drones launched from the outpost, flying toward the human vessel with bright blue lights. They circled it carefully, mapping the damage. Riley's voice returned, softer now. Thank you. I didn't think anyone would hear me out here. Her words were tired, full of pain and isolation. Thalen felt something he had never felt before for a stranger: sympathy. A lone traveler from another galaxy, lost, desperate. How long had she been alone? An unbelievable discovery. As the drones connected to the human vessel, Ramat shouted, Commander, you need to see this. She displayed the data on the main screen. The energy signature of the ship was strange, unlike anything the Zelari had ever scanned. It used star-compressed energy, a technology even the Zelari Empire had never mastered. This is beyond our science, Ramat whispered, shocked. Thalen stared at the data. If this was just a damaged exploration ship, what kind of power did the humans truly possess? What did their fleets look like, and why had they come here? The final moment of Part 1. As the drones stabilized the ship, Riley's voice cracked again. Please don't leave me. I've been alone for too long, Thalen replied firmly. You are not alone anymore, Commander Riley. We will help you. But before he could say more, a loud alarm rang. Warning, a new signal detected. Something else was coming, something big, something fast. Ramat turned pale. Sir, another ship is approaching, and it's not human. Thalen's eyes widened. Is it hostile? Ramat swallowed hard. Sir, it looks like a hunter-class warship. The room fell silent. Riley wasn't just lost, she was being hunted, and now the hunters had arrived. Space did not move, and yet the tension around Outpost Varen 3 felt alive, like the galaxy was holding its breath. The unknown human vessel floated helplessly, its silver hull flickering with dying power. Commander Riley's voice had grown faint, almost disappearing behind crackling static. Rescue drones clung to her ship, trying to stabilize the engines before they collapsed. But now a new threat had entered the scene, a threat powerful enough to shatter the fragile peace. A shadow on the scanners. The moment the alarm rang, every officer turned toward the main screen. A red symbol blinked violently, a fast-moving object, twice the size of the human ship, approaching at alarming speed. Ramat's voice shook. Commander Thalen, it's a Predax Hunter-class vessel. The room fell silent. Hunter ships meant one thing: capture or destruction. The Predax were a feared species. They lived for conquest. They took what they wanted, and if this human ship carried unknown technology, the Predax would stop at nothing to get it. Thalen narrowed his eyes. How far? 30,000 kilometers and closing fast. Ida, 90 seconds. 90 seconds, that was all they had. The Hunter reveals itself through the observation window. A dark shape emerged from hyperspace, sharp, angular, and coated in armor so black it seemed to absorb starlight. Red lights pulsed across its hull like a beating heart. Officer Darren whispered, they came for her and they will destroy anyone who gets in their way. Thalen didn't hesitate. Raise shields, keep our weapons offline. They must not think we want to fight yet. He tapped the comms. General Korsh, the Predax are here. The general's hologram flickered into view, eyes wide. Thalen, protect the human captain at all costs. If the Predax get her, the galaxy could change forever. A desperate human voice. Riley's voice returned, softer and more afraid than before. Commander Thalen, something's wrong. Are those ships your allies? Thalen answered firmly. No, Commander Riley, you are in danger. Stay calm, we are here. Her breath trembled through the speakers. I thought I escaped them. Those words pierced the room like cold needles. Ramat turned sharply toward Thalen. Sir, she already had contact with the Predax. If Riley had run from them, if her ship was damaged because of them, then the danger was far greater than they imagined. The Predax transmission, a harsh, deep voice blasted through the outpost speakers with no warning. Zelari outpost, you are harboring stolen property. Step aside or be destroyed. Every officer stiffened. Darren muttered angrily. Stolen property, a human, is not theirs to claim. Thalen stepped toward the comm panel. Predax vessel, this ship is a survivor requesting aid. She is under Zelari protection. A harsh laugh echoed. Protection from you? There was a pause, then the voice grew colder. We detected the human long before you did. She belongs to us. Ramat slammed her fist against the console. They are lying. They want her technology. Thalen agreed. The Predax never cared for survivors. They cared only for power, a dangerous decision. Thalen turned to his team. We cannot let them take her, but if we fire first it becomes war. Darren nodded slowly. So we delay, stall them, give her time. Ramaz's eyes widened with realization. Sir, the rescue drones are charging her ship's core. If we can stabilize it, she might escape. Thalen made his decision. Then we buy her those minutes, no matter the cost. The hunter moves. The Predax vessel glided forward like a silent beast, red eyes glowing across its hull. Its targeting lasers painted thin red lines across both the human ship and the Zelari outpost. Ramaz whispered, "They are scanning us too." Thalen knew it. Predax hunters always evaluated their prey before striking. He opened a peaceful broadcast. "Predax vessel, we repeat, this ship is under our care. She is no threat. Stand down." The reply was a growl. "You misunderstand, Zelari. The human is not a threat." A pause. "She is an opportunity." Thalen's stomach tightened. The Predax wanted human technology. They wanted whatever allowed a small ship to cross galaxies. They wanted power that didn't belong to them. Human courage. Riley's voice broke through again, weak but sharp. "Commander Thalen, tell me the truth. Are they here for me?" Thalen didn't lie. "Yes, they want your ship, your technology." There was silence. Then Riley spoke again, determined but exhausted. "Then I won't let them have it, even if my ship dies today." Her courage stunned the room. A lone human, drifting and hurt, yet ready to stand against monsters. HFY, humans were made of iron. The standoff. The Predax began charging their weapons. Radiant red energy gathered at the mouth of their cannons. Ramaz shouted, "Sir, they are preparing to fire." Thalen raised his hand. "Do not return fire. Shields up. Hold the line." The outpost glowed with blue shield energy, humming like a giant heartbeat. But Thalen knew Predax weapons were strong enough to tear through shields like paper. Still, he refused to retreat. He stood tall and waited. The Predax commander speaks. A new voice replaced the growling one, calm, eerie, and confident. "Zelari commander, step aside. This human belongs to the Predax Dominion now." Thalen replied with steel in his voice. "She belongs to no one." A cold silence followed. Then you will fall with her." The first shot the Predax cannon fired, a blinding red beam shot through space, screaming toward the outpost. The shield absorbed the first hit, but cracks spread across it instantly, glowing like broken glass. Darren shouted, "Shields at 30%, next hit will destroy us." Thalen clenched his jaw. "Hold position." Ramaz stared at him in shock. "Sir, if they fire again, hold position," he repeated. They weren't standing for pride, they were standing so a human could live. Riley's decision. The human captain's voice returned, filled with urgency. "Commander Thalen, cut the drones loose." Thalen was confused. "Why?" "Because my ship still has one thing working, my emergency warp core. If I can activate it manually, I can escape." Ramaz's eyes widened. "But you're injured, your ship is unstable," Riley interrupted. "If I don't try now, none of us will survive." Human bravery again, but this time it carried a price. A deadly countdown. The Predax charged their cannons again, bigger, brighter, stronger. Ramaz screamed, "Sir, they're going to fire a second shot. It's a full-power blast." Thalen looked at the human ship, then at the Predax vessel, then at his crew. He made the hardest choice of his life. "All drones disconnect." The drones released their grip, drifting away, inside her ship. Riley's weak hands began moving across her cracked control panel. Sparks flew, warning lights blinked wildly, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. The human ship awakened suddenly. The human vessel glowed with a dim blue light, very weak, very unstable, but alive. "Warp core charging," Riley whispered. The Predax cannons were seconds away from firing. Thalen barked orders, "All power to shields, brace for impact." Darren closed his eyes. Ramaz gripped her console. Thalen stood tall, facing the enemy. The human ship trembled, shaking like it might fall apart. Then, a miracle. The warp burst. Riley screamed one final command, "Engage." A burst of blue energy exploded outward from her ship, small but powerful enough to distort space for a brief moment. The human vessel vanished, gone, just like that, escaped. The Predax cannons fired the exact same moment, but the blast hit nothing except empty space and the Zelari shields. The outpost shook violently, sparks flew, panels cracked, officers fell to the floor. When the shaking stopped, the human was gone, safe for now. The Predax fury. The Predax commander roared in anger. "Zelari, you let our prize escape." Thalen responded calmly, "Your prize was a person, not an object." The Predax ship aimed its cannons again. Ramaz whispered, terrified, "Sir, they will destroy us." Thalen stared at the hunter ship. "Maybe, but we did what was right." The Predax charged their weapons, but then unexpectedly they powered down. The Predax commander growled, "Very well, the human escaped for now, but you Zelari have made yourself an enemy of the Dominion." And with that, the hunter ship jumped to warp and disappeared into the darkness. Part 2 ends with a new crisis. The command deck was silent. The outpost was damaged, the shields were almost gone, and the Predax had declared them enemies. But Thalen only thought of one thing. Commander Riley, a human from another galaxy, was alive, and somewhere out there she was alone again. But now she had friends and enemies. The human vessel Aurora's wake tore through space in a broken warp jump, leaving behind a swirling trail of blue distortion. For a few seconds it looked like a falling star, bright, struggling, fighting to stay alive. Inside the ship, Commander Riley hit the floor hard as the emergency warp collapsed. Sparks exploded from the ceiling, smoke filled the narrow corridor, lights flickered, then died completely. She coughed, pushing herself up with trembling hands. Computer status, no response. Her ship was silent, half dead, and drifting into the darkness of unknown space. Riley wiped the blood from her forehead and forced herself to stand. Every part of her body hurt. But she didn't stop, she couldn't stop. She had escaped the Predax. She had survived the Zelari outpost. But now she was alone again, and this time she wasn't sure she would make it. The aftershock of warping. When the warp collapsed, the ship had been thrown out with violent force. The corridor walls were dented, wires hung loose like dead vines. Flames crackled from broken panels. Riley grabbed a fire suppressant from the wall and sprayed until the flames hissed out. She checked a nearby screen, dark and cracked. She tapped her wrist device. No signal, no power grid, life support, 37%. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly. Okay, you've been in worse conditions. That wasn't true, not even close, but she had to keep going. Commander Riley was not the type to surrender. The loneliness of deep space outside the ship's viewport, space stretched endlessly, a quiet black ocean decorated with distant stars. No planets. No ships, no signals, nothing. She was somewhere far from the Zelari system and far away from the Predax, maybe too far. She placed her hand on the cold metal wall. Don't die on me, Aurora, not yet. The Aurora's wake was more than a ship to her. It was her home, her partner, the last piece of humanity she had left. She couldn't bear the idea of losing it. A weak heartbeat. Riley returned to the main control room. Half the consoles were dead, but one flickered faintly. She crawled underneath it, reconnecting emergency lines. Suddenly, beepy, beepy, beep, a tiny heartbeat of power. Riley smiled weakly. Good girl. She reconnected more circuits and dim emergency lights powered on. Life support, 42% engine core, damaged navigation, offline communications, offline. Her smile faded. She was alive but stranded. A ghost signal just as Riley started checking the stabilizers. Something unexpected happened. Ping. A tiny sound, barely noticeable. She froze. Another ping, a soft, weak signal. Not Zelari, not Predax, something else. Riley quickly tapped the emergency receiver. A blurry waveform flickered on the cracked screen. She whispered, "Is someone out there?" The signal repeated, not a message, not a language, but a pattern like a heartbeat. Someone or something was trying to reach her or calling for help. Her eyes narrowed. "If you're out here, you're alone too, aren't you?" She didn't know if it was wise to answer. She didn't know if it was safe, but she also knew the truth. Loneliness kills faster than enemies. Riley took a deep breath and sent a faint signal back. Meanwhile, the Zelari are not safe back at Outpost Varen 3. Commander Thalen stood in the damaged command deck, surrounded by broken screens and injured officers. The Predax attack had left the station shaken but alive. Thalen's first words were not about repairs or defense, they were about Riley. Locate the human ship. Ramash shook her head slowly. Sir, we tracked the warp burst for only a few seconds. The signal split into 3 directions. We don't know which one is real. Thalen clenched his jaw. Keep searching. Darren stepped close. Commander, we should prepare for Predax retaliation. They will not forgive what we did. Thalen nodded. I know. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was the beginning of something bigger. The Zelari had chosen to protect a human, a species no one had ever seen before, and that choice had given them an enemy as powerful as the Predax Empire, but Thalen didn't regret it. Find her, he said quietly. She saved herself, but she should not have to survive alone. Back to Riley, a new threat. Riley leaned closer to the screen. Watching the strange signal repeat, ping, 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 it was too regular, too steady to be natural. She strengthened the receiver line. The signal became clearer. Ping, 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 a code, a location, or a trap. Riley sighed. Of course it could be a trap. Everything out here is a trap. Her fingers hovered over the controls. If she boosted power to the receiver, her ship's remaining energy would drop. Life support might fall below safe limits. She hesitated, then whispered, but if I stay here, I die anyway. She rerouted power. The ship dimmed slightly. The temperature dropped. Her breath turned foggy. The signal sharpened. A message hidden in the dark. The audio crackled. Then words began to form. Not Zelari, not Predax, not human, but a language she didn't recognize, yet somehow familiar. Child, lost one. Riley's eyes widened. The voice was old, gentle, broken. A chill crawled across her skin. Who are you? The ship shook suddenly, lightly, but enough to make her grab the console. Warning, gravitational shift detected. Riley ran to the viewport. At first she saw only darkness. Then something huge moved inside that darkness. Not a ship, not a creature, something ancient, something massive, something asleep. A glowing outline slowly appeared. A ring-shaped structure the size of a small moon, covered in symbols, half destroyed, barely alive. The signal came from it. Riley whispered, an ancient station. If she could reach it, she might find energy, tools, or shelter, but if she went near it, she might never come back. Her ship trembled again. The Aurora's wake was dying. She had no choice. All right, old station, she said softly. Let's see if you're a friend or another nightmare. The sleeping giant, as she approached, the structure slowly awakened. Dim lights flickered across its outer rings. Dust and broken metal floated around it like frozen smoke. The eerie voice returned. "Lost traveler, you are not alone." Riley felt a strange pressure in her chest, fear mixed with curiosity. She opened the ship's external lights, illuminating the gigantic object. It was beautiful, terrifying, silent, ancient. One section of the ring opened, a docking cradle inviting her inside. Riley swallowed hard. "Well, you're either welcoming me or preparing to eat me." Her voice shook, "But I'm going in." She activated the last bit of thruster control and guided her dying ship toward the cradle. The docking of destiny, the Aurora's wake barely made it. The thrusters sputtered and died just as the ship slid inside the open hangar. A force field flickered on, sealing the entrance. Gravity adjusted, lights warmed. The massive structure hummed slowly to life. Riley stared at the glowing walls. This place, it was older than anything she had studied. Older than any species she knew, maybe older than the galaxy itself. But it had woken up for her. "Why?" she whispered. "What are you?" The voice answered softly. "We have waited for your kind." Her blood ran cold. "My kind humans," a long silence, then, "No, we waited for a traveler from the dark between galaxies." Riley froze. This place wasn't calling for humans, it was calling for her alone. The lights brightened, a path revealed itself. The voice echoed again. "Come forward, Commander Riley. There is something you must see." Riley's heart pounded. How did it know her name? How long had it been waiting? And what truth was buried inside this ancient station? She stepped out of her ship and into a mystery bigger than anything she had ever imagined. Commander Riley stepped cautiously into the silent, glowing corridor of the ancient station. The air felt still, heavy with age and memories. Every footstep echoed softly, like she was walking through the ribs of a long-dead giant. Behind her, the Aurora's wake rested weakly in the docking cradle, its lights fading. If she couldn't find help here, her ship and she would not last long. But something in the station felt alive. The soft voice returned, whispering through the walls like distant wind, "Welcome, traveler." Riley clenched her jaw. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" No answer. The corridor slowly lit up one section at a time, guiding her deeper into the ancient structure. A hallway of forgotten stars. She walked forward, her boots tapping lightly on the metallic floor. Strange symbols lined the walls, curved shapes, spirals, long strokes that looked like star maps or equations. They glowed faintly as she passed. Riley touched one of the symbols. It pulsed under her hand like a slow heartbeat. She whispered, "This place, it's responding to me." But why? She had no special powers. She wasn't royalty. She wasn't chosen. She was just a human explorer lost between galaxies. Yet this place seemed to know her. The Chamber of Echoes. The corridor opened into a massive chamber, circular, towering, the ceiling lost in darkness. In the center stood a glowing pillar, rotating slowly. Thousands of tiny lights swirled around it like fireflies trapped in time. Riley stepped closer. As she did, the lights suddenly changed shape, forming a galaxy. Not Zelari, not Predax. Her galaxy, the Milky Way. Riley froze, her breath caught in her throat. How do you have this?" The ancient voice answered softly, but this time it sounded clearer, almost like a whisper inside her mind. "We have watched your galaxy for longer than your species has existed." Riley stared at the glowing Milky Way projection, an ancient station older than entire civilizations, holding a map of her galaxy. This was impossible, but here it was. First revelation, the lights shifted. Images flickered, star systems, nebulae, swirling galaxies, ancient battles, great migrations of species unknown to her. Then she saw something that made her step back in shock. A small bright dot leaving a galaxy, traveling through the dark void, crossing millions of light years, heading toward this very station. She whispered, trembling, "That's my ship." The voice answered, "Your arrival was seen long before your birth." Riley's heart pounded. "You're telling me you predicted me?" The chamber lights dimmed, then brightened in response. "The void travelers are rare but not unknown. Across ages, a handful have crossed the darkness between galaxies. You are the first human to do so." Riley staggered. Humans traveling between galaxies, was that possible? Was she not the first? Her mind raced. If others came before me, where are they now? Silence, cold, lonely, heavy, then gone, lost to time. But their echoes remain. The lights flickered again, showing ghostly silhouettes, shapes she couldn't recognize. Not human, not Zelari, not Predax, different, older, stronger, dead. Riley felt a chill creep up her spine. What happened to them? The answer came slowly. They were hunted by the same darkness that hunts you now. She stiffened. The Predax. Silence, then no. A deeper, older fear filled the chamber. Something far worse. Meanwhile, the Zelari faced their own crisis back at Outpost Varan 3. Commander Thalen stood over a holographic star map. The Predax warning replayed on a loop. "You have made yourself an enemy of the Dominion." Thalen's officers moved with urgency. Repairs were underway, but morale was low. Soldiers whispered fears about war, doom, and the mysterious human whose arrival had triggered everything. Rama approached him. "Sir, we found a faint warp residue. It's weak. But it could be hers." Thalen's eyes focused. "Location, near the abandoned Vathar ring. That place is ancient, dangerous. No one goes there anymore." Thalen nodded. "Prepare a rescue detachment. We leave immediately." Darren looked at him with disbelief. You would enter the Vathar ring for her. Thalen answered firmly. She asked for help, and we gave our word. He paused, voice softening, and she is alone. No one should face the dark alone. Riley, in the vision of the past back inside the ancient chamber, the swirling lights shifted again. A story began to unfold, a peaceful galaxy, an ancient species living in harmony, explorers reaching beyond their borders, then darkness, a shadow swallowing stars, worlds falling silent, entire civilizations erased. Riley's eyes filled with horror. What is that? The voice grew heavy as if remembering pain, the Devourers. Riley shook her head. I've never heard of them. Few remain who remember, fewer still who survived. Images flashed, huge black forms, shifting like living shadows, devouring planets whole, massive fleets firing desperately and being torn apart like paper. Riley whispered, why show me this? The lights dimmed, then the voice answered, because they have awakened again. Her blood went cold, and they're coming here. Not yet. They hunt the void paths. They sense new travelers. They may follow your trail. Riley's legs nearly gave out. She had led something terrible toward this galaxy, something older than the Predax, something stronger than any empire, something hungry. The invitation, the glowing pillar stopped rotating. A beam of light shot upward, opening a hidden door behind the chamber. A long, spiral staircase descended into darkness. Riley stared. The voice whispered, below lies what you seek, but beware, knowledge is a weapon, and weapons draw enemies. She swallowed. What is down there? The voice paused, then spoke words that made her heart stop. Answers about your kind. Riley froze. My kind, humans. Yes, Riley's throat tightened. This ancient place knew something about humans. She took a step toward the stairs, then another. Her voice trembled. Why me? Why a human explorer? I'm no one special. The answer echoed through the chamber with surprising gentleness, because the universe does not choose the strongest. It chooses the ones who keep moving, even when they are alone. Riley felt tears sting her eyes for the first time in years. She wasn't chosen because she was powerful. She wasn't chosen because she was unique. She was chosen because she refused to die. The descent into the unknown. Riley stepped into the stairway. Lights awakened under her boots as she walked down, illuminating her path. The air grew warmer, the walls smoother, the symbols brighter. This place was not just ancient, it was intelligent, alive, waiting. As she reached the bottom, a door slid open with a soft sigh. Inside was a small circular room. At the center rested a floating sphere, white, glowing, humming softly. Riley approached carefully. What are you? The sphere brightened. A memory, a message from those who came before. Riley reached out and touched it, and the room exploded with light. The human secret images shot into her mind. Humans not as they were today, but as they had once been. Travelers, builders, navigators of the dark. Long ago, long before recorded history, humans had reached the edge of their galaxy on great ancient ships. Not advanced like the Aurora's wake, but brave, determined, fearless, and some of them crossed the void. She saw them, their faces, their struggles, their deaths, their victories. She saw human hands touching the walls of this station thousands of years before she was born. She saw this very sphere created from their memories. Riley staggered back, breathing hard. No, that can't be real. Humans were primitive back then. They didn't have this technology. The voice answered, technology fades, history erodes, but courage remains. Humans have always been travelers of the unknown. Riley's heart hammered. If this was true, everything she knew about human history was incomplete. Her species was older, bolder, greater, and their past had been erased. But by who? The voice spoke again. Leave this room now, Riley. Your time is limited. The hunters are coming. Riley's eyes widened. Predax. No, something older, something hungry. The Devourers. Her blood ran cold. She turned to run, but before she left, the sphere gave one final message. You are not the first, but you may be the last. The ancient chamber trembled as the glowing sphere dimmed. The lights flickered. Like the station itself was scared of what it had just revealed. Commander Riley stood frozen, her chest rising and falling sharply. You're saying humans crossed the void thousands of years ago? Her voice shook. The sphere's fading light responded gently. Yes, they came seeking answers just like you. Riley swallowed hard. But why doesn't humanity remember any of this? A long pause, then, because something made them forget. Her stomach twisted. Something powerful enough to erase an entire chapter of human history. Riley stepped back, shaking her head. No, that's impossible. The sphere pulsed weakly. Impossible, yet true, but there is no time. The Devourers walk the void. They follow echoes, and your jump left a loud one. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. The lights dimmed. The station was afraid. Riley whispered, they're coming. Yes. The first sign of the Devourers, a deep rumbling rolled through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Riley grabbed a wall panel to steady herself. An earthquake here? No, they are touching the fabric of space outside, searching. She ran back toward the stairs. Lights flickered, turning red. The ancient voice grew urgent. Go, Riley, go now. Your life depends on it. Riley sprinted up the spiral path, her heart pounding. Each step felt heavier, like the air around her thickened, like something was watching. As she reached the top chamber, she heard a low hum, unnatural, eerie, vibrating through her bones. She turned toward the docking bay. Outside the station, space was warping. Like invisible fingers were pressing into reality. Something had arrived. Meanwhile, the Zelari fleet approaches in Zelari space. Commander Thalen's rescue detachment raced toward the coordinates. Their ships darted through hyperspace, engines glowing with blue fire. Thalen braced himself as the jump tunnel twisted around them. His thoughts weren't on the Predax or on their threatened war. They were on Riley, a lone human lost in ancient ruins while something terrible stalked the void. Ramak called out from the console, "Sir, we are nearing the Vathar ring." Thalen straightened, "Drop us out of hyperspace." The stars snapped into view and the entire crew gasped. Floating in darkness was the massive ancient station, half-lit, half-dead. Its rings spun slowly, surrounded by unnatural shadows. Darren whispered, "Sir, that place is alive. I can feel it." Thalen nodded. "Prepare landing teams. We find Riley immediately." But before they could move, space twisted beside them. A shadow tore out of the darkness. Not a ship, not a creature, something worse. The darkness that eats light. Back inside the station, Riley reached a large window overlooking space. And she froze. A shape floated outside the station. A massive, black silhouette, almost shapeless. Like a shadow wearing the memory of a body. It had no clear form, just swirling darkness with hints of fractured bone-like structures. But its eyes, too hollow, glowing white rings stared directly at the station. Directly at her. Riley's breath caught. "What is that?" The ancient voice whispered. "The Devourer, a hunter of light, a predator of travelers." The creature pulsed, space rippled. Riley stumbled as the floor shook again. "It senses you, it remembers the ones before you. It follows the scent of the void path." The Devourer opened its hollow jaws soundlessly like a nightmare. Riley backed away. "Oh no, 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 no." The creature moved, slowly, patiently, like it knew she could not escape. Not yet. Riley runs for her life. Computer emergency override. Open inner doors. The station responded sluggishly as if exhausted, but it obeyed. Doors slid open ahead of her. Riley sprinted through the corridors, her lungs burning. The lights flickered, then went out entirely. Darkness swallowed the hallways. Behind her she heard a deep, low moan like a whale drifting through endless water. It wasn't the station, it was the Devourer, searching, touching the walls with invisible claws. Riley nearly tripped but kept running, her boots slamming against metal. The docking bay door came into view. She burst inside and saw her ship, weak, cracked, flickering, but still alive. Entering the Aurora's wake again, Riley rushed into the cockpit, slamming her hand onto the manual controls. Lights sputtered. A faint hum responded. "Come on, girl, wake up, please wake up." The ship groaned like a wounded animal. Then power grid, 12% thrusters, 6% hull integrity. Critical. It wasn't enough to escape. Not yet. Riley gritted her teeth. "I don't need escape, I need movement." She rerouted life support into the engines. The air thinned. The temperature dropped to freezing. Her breath turned into white mist. Her hands shook, her vision blurred, but the engines flickered, then glowed faintly. She whispered through chattering teeth, "That's it, good girl." The Devourer makes its move. The station suddenly shook violently. A loud, haunting noise filled the docking bay like metal crying. Riley looked up. The Devourer was pressing itself against the station's outer ring. Its shadowy mass covered an entire section. Its bone-like tendrils dug into the metal, tearing at it. Searching, tasting, trying to enter. Riley's heart raced faster than ever. "It knows where I am." The ancient voice came through the ship's comm system, now weak and breaking. "Riley, the Zelari are coming. Hold on, we will try to slow it." Riley whispered, "This station was once alive, a guardian. I am only its last echo, but I will help you." Suddenly, the docking cradle activated. Sparks flew around the hangar. Ancient engines roared weakly to life. The station pushed outward like trying to shove the Devourer away. The creature responded with a single, horrifying scream that shattered nearby panels. Riley covered her ears, but she didn't stop. She triggered the final thruster ignition. Meanwhile, the Zelari confront the impossible. Thalen's fleet shook as the Devourer extended a massive tendril toward the nearest Zelari ship. Ramas screamed, "It's targeting us." Thalen shouted, "Fire flares, do not use energy weapons." Energy would only feed it. The crew launched dozens of heat flares. They exploded in bright bursts, distracting the creature. For a split second, it turned toward the flares, and that was the opening they needed. Thalen yelled, "Get us to the station now." The fleet sped toward the ancient structure. The escape sparks life inside the docking bay. Riley pulled the ignition lever. The Aurora's wake growled. Engines coughed. The ship lifted an inch, then another, then the Devourer tore into the station. A hole exploded open as tendrils slammed inside, ripping metal apart. Riley screamed. The ancient voice cried out, "Go." The station diverted all remaining power into the docking cradle, launching Riley's ship forward like a bullet. Her craft shot out of the hangar just as a tendril smashed down where she had stood a heartbeat earlier. A narrow escape. Riley's ship spun wildly as it exited the station. She fought the controls desperately. The Devourer lunged toward her, jaws opening to swallow her whole. Riley whispered, "Not today." She hit the last emergency thrusters. The ship shot sideways, barely dodging the creature's maw. The Devourer roared silently, twisting around to chase her. But something happened. Zelari ships entered the battle zone. Thalen's voice rang through her broken comm receiver. Riley. Hold on, we've got you. Her breath hitched. She wasn't alone anymore. The ancient station's last gift. Suddenly, the entire ancient station glowed bright blue. Every ring, every symbol, every corridor. The echo voice spoke one final time. Goodbye, Riley. Carry our memory into the stars. Then boom, the station detonated in a controlled explosion of pure light. A shockwave expanded outward, knocking the devourer back and tearing off pieces of its shadowy form. It screamed in silent fury and retreated into the darkness. The light faded. The station was gone. Only dust and glowing fragments remained. Riley felt hot tears run down her face. Thank you, old friend. Part 5 ends with a new beginning. Zelari ships surrounded her. Thalen's voice returned, strong and full of relief. Riley, we've got you. You're safe. Riley leaned back in her seat, exhausted, trembling. No, she whispered. She looked at the empty space where the ancient station once stood. No one is safe, not anymore, because the Devourers had awakened, and now they knew humans existed again. The Zelari rescue fleet surrounded the damaged Aurora's wake, guiding Riley's ship gently toward a docking bay inside their command cruiser. Sparks still trailed from her engines, and smoke drifted from cracks in the hull. Inside the cockpit, Riley barely kept her eyes open. Her hands trembled as she tried to stabilize the controls. A familiar voice filled the comm. Commander Riley, this is Thalen. You're safe now, just hold on. Riley let out a small laugh, broken, tired, relieved. No, Commander Thalen, safe is the one thing I am not. The quiet that followed was heavy with worry. A rescue waited with fear as the docking arms secured her ship. Riley leaned back in her seat, her vision blurred and her breathing slowed. She had pushed her body far beyond its limits. Medics rushed into the dock, opening her cockpit and lifting her out carefully. As they carried her toward the cruiser's medbay, one medic whispered, "By the stars, what happened to her?" Riley forced her eyes open, staring at the dark view of space behind them. "Something old," she whispered, voice fading. "Something hungry." Then everything went dark. The Zelari confront the unknown. Commander Thalen stood alone at the forward observation deck, staring at the empty space where the ancient station had once existed. Only drifting debris remained, glowing fragments slowly fading into darkness. Ramah approached quietly. "Sir, the readings around the explosion are strange." Thalen turned his head slightly. "Strange how?" Ramah swallowed, nervous. "That explosion, it wasn't a normal detonation. It wasn't a weapon. It was a signal." Thalen frowned. "A signal to whom?" Ramah showed him a flickering hologram, pulse patterns spreading across star systems. "A message," she whispered, "but we don't know who it was meant for." Thalen stared at the pulsing waves, or what it might bring. For the first time since meeting Riley, he felt true dread. Riley awakens to a new reality. Hours passed. Riley slowly regained consciousness in a soft, glowing med pod. Her body ached, her throat hurt, her head felt heavy. But she was alive. A Zelari medic noticed her eyes open and called out, "She's awake." Commander Thalen entered the room immediately. Riley tried to sit up. He raised a hand. "Easy, Commander, you need rest." Riley closed her eyes, breathing slowly. "I saw it, Thalen. I saw the Devourer." The room fell silent. Ramah stepped forward. "You actually saw one with your own eyes?" Riley nodded weakly. "It was bigger than a ship, darker than space. Like a shadow that learned how to breathe." She shivered, and it tore through the station like paper. Thalen exchanged a grave look with Ramah. "You're sure it was hunting you?" Riley's voice was small but certain. It felt personal, a secret the galaxy never knew. Thalen sat beside her bed. "Riley, you have to tell us everything, anything that can help us understand what we're facing." Riley took a deep breath. "The station showed me memories." "Memories?" Thalen repeated. Riley nodded. "Of humans, long before any of us expected. Humans who crossed the void ages ago." Ramah's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible. Humans were primitive back then." "I thought so too," Riley whispered. "But they reached this galaxy. They left messages. They died here. They fought something no species has ever recorded." Thalen leaned forward. "What happened to them?" Riley closed her eyes, pain visible across her face. "They were hunted, devoured until the last one fell." A cold silence washed over the room. Thalen spoke softly and the Devourers their back. Riley nodded slowly. "They followed me, or the echo of my jump. Either way, they know humans exist again." The implications were terrifying. The Predac's return alarms suddenly blared through the cruiser. Ramah grabbed her comm. "Commander Thalen, Predac's signatures detected. They just jumped into the system." Thalen stood instantly. "Many?" Ramah's eyes darkened as she read the display. "Not one ship, a fleet." Riley's heart dropped. "They want my ship, my technology." Thalen turned sharply. "They want something worse. They want whatever the ancient station left behind." Riley's fingers curled into fists. "They can't have it." Predac's fleet confrontation. The Zelari cruiser moved into defensive position. Outside, dozens of Predac's warships unfolded from hyperspace, forming a ring around the system. Red lights glowed along their hulls, aggressive, threatening, growing brighter by the second. A Predac's broadcast burst through every channel. "Zelari, you hid the human. Turn her over to us or your empire falls today." Thalen lifted his chin. "This is Zelari territory. You have no right." The Predac's voice interrupted. "You have no rights left." The fleet activated their weapons, red energy building like a storm. Ramah whispered, "Sir, our ships can't hold against this many." Thalen clenched his jaw. "We do not abandon allies, not today." He turned toward Riley, still weak but alert. "Commander Riley, you have brought something dangerous into our galaxy, but you also brought something else." Riley looked confused. "What?" Thalen gave a small, brave smile. "Hope." A choice with no good answers. As the Predax fleet tightened its formation, Riley struggled to sit up. "Thalen, if the Devourers are coming, then the Predax cannot be our enemies right now. If they attack us, they'll weaken the whole galaxy." Thalen nodded grimly. "I know, a war between us now would be suicide." He looked out the window. "What you saw, what followed you, this is bigger than species, bigger than borders." Riley whispered, "We need unity, not war." Thalen turned to her with a desperate idea. "And what if you talk to them?" Riley almost laughed. "Me. They want to cut open my ship like a toy." Thalen placed a hand on her shoulder. "They will listen if you give them something they want." Riley's eyes narrowed. "And what do they want?" Thalen answered quietly, "A future." Riley makes a dangerous move. Moments later, Riley, still weak, barely able to stand, was escorted to the main command deck. A Predax ship opened a direct communication channel. A massive hologram of the Predax commander appeared, towering, armored, scarred. He growled, "Human, you should not exist." Riley stepped forward, voice steady despite her shaking body. "Yet here I am." The Predax narrowed his eyes. "Your ship carries power not meant for your kind. We will take." Riley cut him off. "You think my ship is a prize? It's a warning." The Predax paused. "A warning?" Riley leaned closer to the screen. "There is something coming behind me, something older than your empire, older than every species here." She spoke slowly. "They don't want my ship, they don't want the Zelari, they want all of us." The Predax fell silent. Thalen watched carefully. Riley continued, "If you fight us now, you'll weaken the galaxy, and when the Devourers arrive, no one will survive." The Predax commander growled low. "You claim this darkness is real?" Riley nodded. "I saw it. It destroyed the station you were trying to steal. It will destroy you too." For the first time, the Predax commander hesitated. "Then show me." Part 6 ends with a dangerous alliance. Riley's voice turned cold. "I will show you everything, but if you hurt the Zelari again, if you threaten us again, then I swear, even if I die, I will make sure you face the Devourers alone." Silence. The Predax commander finally spoke. "Very well, human, we will listen for now." The channel closed. Riley's knees buckled and Thalen caught her before she fell. She whispered, "This isn't peace, it's fear." Thalen nodded. "But fear binds enemies stronger than treaties." Riley closed her eyes. "Then let's use it, because the Devourers were still out there, still hunting, still coming, and the galaxy had only just begun to understand the terror waking in the dark." The Zelari flagship hung silently in space, surrounded by the uneasy Predax fleet. For the first time in centuries, both species had paused their hostility, not because of trust, but because of fear. Inside the flagship's command deck, Riley stood in the center, still weak, wrapped in a thermal medical cloak. Her eyes were tired but sharp. The galaxy was watching her now, allies, enemies, and something far worse hiding in the dark. Commander Thalen stood beside her, calm but tense. Raman Darren monitored the consoles, tracking every movement of the Predax ships. Then the Predax commander appeared again as a giant hologram, his red eyes narrowed. "Human, you promised us proof, show it." Riley inhaled slowly. "All right, but once you know, there's no going back." The Predax commander growled, "Do not test my patience." Riley turned to Thalen. "Connect me to the ship logs, the memory sphere, everything the station shared." Thalen nodded. "For the galaxy, the vision begins. Every ship, Zelari and Predax alike, received the transmission." The lights dimmed. A holographic projection bloomed in the center of the room, filling the entire deck with swirling stars. "Ancient galaxies and ghostly images," Riley's voice narrated over it. "This is the truth the ancient station showed me." The hologram shifted. It showed a galaxy thriving with life, a species older than the Zelari, older than the Predax, older than humans. Tall, luminous beings walked across starlit cities. Their technology was elegant, shaped by peace, not war. The Predax scoffed. "Why show us these weaklings?" Riley raised a hand. They weren't weak. They were the first travelers of the void, the first species to cross between galaxies. The projection zoomed in. Suddenly a dark ripple spread through space like ink spilled into water. The first devourer appeared, a dark shape, a hollow mouth, living shadow. The ancient species fled. Wars began. Worlds fell. Riley's voice grew quiet. They survived for centuries, but even they couldn't stop the devourers. The hologram dimmed. Every officer in the room went silent. "The forgotten human past," Riley continued, her tone harder. "Thousands of years later, humans, yes, humans reached the edge of the Milky Way. They were explorers too." The Predax commander snarled, "Lies, humans were primitive." Riley stared him down. "Your history is not the only history in the universe." The hologram showed old human ships, not advanced like modern ones, but brave, tough, built for survival. They reached the ancient station and activated its last memory. The projection shifted again, human faces, human hands touching the same walls Riley touched, a human captain sacrificing his ship to delay a devourer. Riley's voice cracked. They died here, every last one. Ramah whispered, why would humanity forget this? Riley shook her head. I think they didn't forget, I think they were made to forget. The Predax commander's eyes narrowed. By what? Riley answered softly, the devourers. A dangerous theory. Riley stepped forward. The devourers don't just eat planets, they eat memory, they eat history, they erase the species they hunt until nothing remains. She looked at Thalen. That's why the ancient station woke when it saw me. Humans returned to the void and it remembered. Thalen whispered, and the devourers remembered too. Riley nodded. That's why they followed me. The Predax commander growled, if these things truly erased your past, then they are a threat to all of us. Riley responded sharply, exactly, and we cannot fight them alone, not humans, not Zelari, not Predax. A heavy silence filled the room, an alliance forged in fear. Thalen spoke first. Predax commander, I propose a temporary truce. We combine forces, we share intelligence. The Predax laughed bitterly. A truce with Zelari? Riley stepped forward. Not a truce, a survival pact. The Predax glared at her, and why should we trust a human? Riley didn't flinch, because if you don't, you will not live long enough to regret it. The Predax stared at her for a long moment, then he said quietly, what do you suggest? Riley gestured to the hologram. We track the devourer, find where it went, learn how it thinks, how it hunts. Thalen added, and if we starve it, confuse it, block its path, we might stall it. Ramah turned from her console, face pale. Commander, we have another problem. Thalen frowned. What now? Ramah swallowed. The devourer didn't retreat. Thalen stiffened. Where is it? Ramah's voice cracked. It's heading toward a star system with populated worlds. Riley's heart dropped. Which one? Ramah hesitated. Yours, Riley. Riley froze. It's heading toward the Milky Way. The galaxy reacts. The Predax commander slammed his fist down. Impossible. It is too. Riley whispered, it doesn't matter. Devourers don't travel like we do. They don't use warp. They slip between reality. They follow hunger. Thalen clenched his fists. Then your galaxy, your people, are the next target. Riley's eyes filled with tears she didn't expect. My world, Earth, they don't even know these creatures exist. Thalen put a hand on her shoulder. They will, because you will warn them. Riley shook her head slowly. My ship can't make that journey. Not in this condition. The Predax commander grunted. Your ship is damaged, but your knowledge is intact. His red eyes glowed. We will escort you, protect you until your people are warned. Riley blinked. You would help me. The Predax commander growled. We fight the devourers. We do not fight children. Riley smiled weakly. That's the nicest thing you've ever said. A message to the stars. Riley walked to the central console. What are you doing? Thalen asked. Riley began typing commands with shaking hands. I'm sending a long-range message, a warning to anyone who can hear. No human will receive it in time, Ramah said sadly. Riley nodded. I know, but humans aren't the only ones who need to prepare. She pressed send. The message shot into the stars. This is Commander Riley of the Milky Way. The devourers have returned. If you value your future, prepare. The console beeped. Message sent, Ramah confirmed. Riley exhaled slowly. It begins now, a foreshadowing of war as the Zelari and Predax fleets prepared to jump. Thalen looked at Riley. Where do we go first? Riley wiped her eyes. To the place where humans first crossed the void. Thalen frowned. Why? Riley stared at the stars. Because the station wasn't the only one built. There are many more. Ramah gasped. Other ancient stations? Yes. Riley nodded. And if humanity really lost its past, then those stations may still hold the truth, or weapons, or answers. Thalen straightened. Then our next journey begins. Riley whispered, no, the galaxy's next journey begins.